G'day, Aussie Bonsai Bloke here, here go. Today I'm going to be just showing you that I do have some small trees. So for those of you who think I don't have any small trees, well, I've got 4. This is it. This is all my really small ones. Even this one here is getting on the bigger side of things. I think it was Peter. One of the viewers' names was Peter. Whoa, the dog's gone mad. And he wanted me to do some work on some smaller trees. So I had a look around and I thought, I think I've got quite a few small trees. I had a look around and I don't really have a hell of a lot. I have a few that are just a bit bigger than this one here. A few more of those. I'm going to do a tour around outside as well soon, but maybe not quite just yet. So anyway, these are my little small ones. I'm going to be working. This one here is fine. I don't have to work on that one. Going to be doing a little bit of trimming on this one. This one I already worked on the other day. Didn't do a video on that one. This is a quince. Just a fruiting quince. This one here is a box. I think, I don't know, some sort of box anyway. Then the juniper nana. And this one's Chinese elm. So I'm going to be working on the Chinese elm and the box today. And then I'll do a spin of all the trees on the way out. You can see this one here is quite small, fits in my hand. That one's the smallest one I've got. To be honest, it's actually a bit hard to keep these small ones alive in my summer that I have, which is pretty hot. But this one seems tough enough to survive, so that's good. So I'll do a little bit of trimming on this one and this one. And the other two I'll put to the side for now. And we'll do a bit of work on it. No worries, cheers. I'll bring the camera in a bit closer. Okay. So yeah, it's going to be a fairly short video because I don't have much to do. What I'm going to do is chop this one back where it's really long. Chop it back to some short nodes. It's actually about to flower as well, this box at the moment. I'm not sure how pretty the box flowers are. I don't think very pretty, so if I cut them off, it's not the end of the world. This tree's actually been pretty healthy in here, to be honest. I don't know why, but it seems happy. Even on the hottest of days, it's been pretty happy. So basically I'm just chopping it back to 2 nodes, 2 little nodes. I'm chopping it back to from where every division is. I'll let it go 1 little baby node, a second node, and then I'm cutting on both. Possibly even back to 1 node, but most, there's one here that's elongated. I'm cutting it back to the first node. So your division will have your 2 branches coming off, and then it'll be cut at the first 2 nodes. And some of them I'll be cutting on the second node, just depending on how small those nodes are, because some of them are so super small that if you cut back to 1 node, in time when it grows, it would actually look like that branch all came from the same spot. So if you had a really short node back here and you made it a rule that you cut back to the first node on every single branch that you do, what would happen? You cut it back to here. In a few years, when this grows a bit thicker, cut back to another node, it will all end up like a big ball here, looking like it all comes from the same spot, even though technically you've let it grow out a node, but the nodes are that short that it looks like it comes from the same spot. So if you got really, really close nodes, there's no problem at all going to the second node and having a little bit longer. So it's really defined, like a secondary or tertiary branching. It's really defined in the fact that it's from a different location. It's not from the same location. Some plants, like olives are one. If you do it from that first exact node on everything, you'll end up looking like everything came out of the same spot and it wouldn't look too good at all. So there's a lot of cases, you know, in trees where, you know, you have to go to the second node. The first node's just too short. And same thing, there's some trees where the first node is almost too long and you have to go back to the first node. So just have a look how close your internode length is. If it's a really close internode length, go to the second node. If it's really far apart internode lengths, go to your first node. What do you want there, dog? Do you want this? Here, eat that. Crazy dog. I shut the shed door on the dog. But you know what? He barged his way through. So that's that tree trimmed. I'll do a spin of all of them on the way out, but that's pretty much it. This one's actually my daughter's tree. I said that she could have it. What are you doing there, dog? You can't eat this. Hey, you'll be in big trouble. So yeah, that's the daughter's little tree. It's actually getting quite old now. It's got a bit of moss on there, which I can take off, but it doesn't look too bad to leave it on a bit. Okay, and now I'll go to the Chinese elm that needs a bit of work. Okay, so the Chinese elm's a bit the same. Internode lengths are that close that you can go to the second node. I'll cut anything that hangs down pretty well on this Chinese elm. I want it to be more upright if I can. These get really fine twigging really quickly on these Chinese elms. And I'm literally going to go through, chop them all back pretty short, and also make sure there's only 2 branches from each spot. You don't want 3. You have 3, you end up with a big fat knuckle in the long run. So try to keep it to two branches from any one location. So here we have 3. 1, 2, 3. I assume that one's alive. Okay, so in this case, this one's dead, these 2 are alive. So I'll be cutting the dead one off and keeping those 2. But then there's actually a 3rd one here, so there's actually 4. So now we've got 1, 2, 3. Still have to choose one to cut off. I'm not going to cut off this one that hangs out to the side, because this one here will fill its place. And also, if I was to cut this one off in the middle, this division here where it comes out, the angle would be too, hang on, what am I trying to do here? The angle where it comes out would be too wide. You want more of an acute angle like that rather than a really wide angle to start. Otherwise you end up almost like a bullnose type thing, or at least just a really wide angle, which doesn't look natural. You have a look at a tree, most branches come out acute, so I'll get rid of the big fat one and keep the branch coming out reasonably at a shallow sort of an angle rather than a big wide angle. So I'll go through and do that, cut it back short everywhere, short again. And keep a lot of this ramification on. If you were to get to the top, see here we got the top of the tree, you got this really big fat one. Normally what would happen is you cut it back to a skinny one, but there's nothing to take its place here. Normally I would cut it back to a skinny one, there's nothing to take its place, so I'll just cut the fat one back really short. Because you don't really want the fat ones in the top of the tree like that. But in this case, as I said, there's nothing to take its place, so we'll leave it on there. Cut back. We've got a couple from the inside of the crotch in here. Cut them off. Cut these short. That one short. Same here. Cut them back nice and short. Cut this really inside one right off, and then we've got these two here. Pretty simple. You just want 2 from each location, and you want it to get progressively thinner on the way out. As the branching ramifies, you want it to get thinner and thinner towards the outside of the tree. Inside of the tree you want fatter, outside of the tree thinner. So you have anything that's too fat on the outside of the tree, you can chop it right back like that, go back to a thinner one. Okay, and especially with these Chinese elms, you know, you get such fine ramification that anything that's fat, you cut it off, and they grow that prolifically that within the first month of summer, you'll have a whole heap of new shoots there anyway, so don't be too scared about cutting it off. Okay, like you can see, some of this twigging is just absolutely tiny. It's really small twigging. Some of it's alive, some's dead. Okay, we're getting pretty close now, almost done. Yeah, beautiful tree to work with, the old Chinese elm. Very forgiving, very fine branching. Just a beautiful tree. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that now. And I'll leave it now until summer, and then give it another prune back once the spring flush is finished. I'll give it another trim back then, and same thing, cut it back short to maybe 2 internodes on the summer's growth. And that's all you do. You let it grow at 6, maybe 6 internodes in summer. Cut it back to 2 or 1, depending on the internode length, but Chinese elms pretty safe to say 2, because they're fairly close internodes anyway. Right, that's that done. Be happy with that. Looking at the front of the tree there. No worries. G'day, welcome back. Well, I've done the work on the little trees, 2 little trees, and the other 2 I've already worked on, so like I said before, I don't have to work on them. So yeah, turns out I don't have many of these little trees. I've only got, well, really only 3 little ones. I'll just show you as a reference. This is my pair of snips. Just a bit of a reference to the height of them. Okay, so this one here from the top of the pot, it's about 2/3 to 3/4 the length of the snips. This one here is almost the length of the snips. This one here is only 2/3 to 3/4, probably 3/4. And this one here, well, probably a length and a quarter on this one. That's getting a bit bigger. Like I say, I got some others that are almost the same size as this, but they are getting on the bigger end. So it's made it pretty obvious today that I don't have many small ones. For good reason though, you know, like I have such a harsh summer that to keep it alive in this little pot, you know, it's a tiny little pot, dries out so quick. It's extremely hard. The only reason this thing's alive is because it's being in part shade underneath the other trees. It sort of gets hidden. And the fact that it's just a tough tree, because it has, I've got to be honest, it has dried out a few times, but somehow it's still alive, and well, that's the main thing. So you got the box, Chinese elm, the juniper banana, and the quince. I'm going to give them a bit of a spin on the way out while I play some music. I'll do an individual spin of each tree. And that's it. So cheers for watching Aussie Bonsai Bloke. Please like, share, subscribe. Check out the old Instagram. I haven't updated that for a while, but I will now. That's about it. So I'll give you a spin on the way out and play some music. No worries. Cheers.